Hi everyone, this is Mindy and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be creating our own foiled cardstock using ThermoWeb toner sheets. This is pretty inexpensive and it's a great trick if you need to have a specific color of foil for your card front but don't have that particular foiled cardstock. To create my cards today, I'm going to be using this new collaboration set from Gina K Designs and ThermoWeb called Tropical Sunshine. I also have a pack here of toner card fronts that are cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on. Now the stamp set has some amazing sentiments on here and silhouette images, and there also is a die. Now this die doesn't line up with the images, but it does coordinate with the whole theme. It does also have a word die and shadow die, and then there is this amazing stencil. Now you can use the side of the stencil or you can use that centerpiece with that sun. I am definitely using this sun piece today because I love that retro look. For the toner sheets, now these can be used in a couple of ways. These are black toner sheets. They come in card front sizes, and you can use them to foil an entire card front, or if you have leftover foil from, let's say, the polyglaze sheets, you can use these toner sheets to use up that leftover foil. I'm going to be using it to create a whole card front of foil. There are quite a few different colors available from Gina K Designs and ThermoWeb, and I'm going to start with this grass green because I want to do my palm trees from them. But I'm also going to be sharing you this sweet mango. Now I don't end up using the sweet mango, but I do want to walk you through how to foil your card fronts. Also keep in mind that these foils are meant for a laminator, not your glimmer hot foil system. So the first thing I did was take a sheet of that foil. Be careful because they are really thin sheets of foil, so you want to make sure you just have the one sheet. And I'm trimming it down to fit that toner card front. Now I'm bringing in my mini Minc machine. I'm going to flip the button on in the back, and then I'm going to bring this up to number 3. That's going to blink red until it's ready, and then it'll be a solid green. So I took that sweet mango piece that I trimmed down, I placed it over my toner card front, and I'm placing it in my carrier sheet. Now these are from ThermoWeb. I do also have a piece of cardstock in there just to add a little bit of pressure so it puts my cardstock and foil more towards the rollers inside of the mini Minc machine. And then once my green light is on, I can go ahead and run that through the machine. I always place that in so my folded edge goes in first. That way my rollers aren't going to catch any of that excess paper. Now there is a clear sheet on top of that foil, so you want to peel that back, and that's going to reveal your entire foiled panel. So we have lots of shine on here in this gorgeous orange that you can use for anything, whether it be your die cuts or sentiments. So I'm going to quickly repeat these steps to show you one more time. This is using the grass green. I placed it so the pretty side is up on top of that toner card front. So the black side of the toner faces up and the pretty side of my foil faces up. Then once I ran that through the mini Minc, and I can pull off that protective sheet. I created a few more off camera that I was already using. There is a passionate pink, beautiful bright pink, and then I also have some sea glass. So I will be using the passionate pink and the grass green one, and maybe even the sea glass I think I used today. Now I'm going to bring out that coordinating die set, and I'm picking out the palm trees. So there's 2 palm tree toppers and there's also 2 tree trunks. And I'm going to lay these down on top of that grass green foiled toner card front. And I'm going to hold these down with some Easy C tape and then run these through my die cut machine. I am also going to be die cutting these palm trees out of white cardstock and layering them together later on in the video. I just wanted to let you know because I don't show that in the video, but I do die cut it from the white cardstock just to add a little stability behind it. I'm going to use this stencil and work on some backgrounds, and I definitely recommend Pixie Spray. It is a low-tack adhesive, especially for those fine lines in the stencil. So I sprayed that over by my garbage can, and then I can place that on top of my layering white cardstock from Gina K Designs, and I have that cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I am also going to place this on top of my magnetic work surface and hold the rest down with magnets. That's just my security blanket. So I'm starting at the bottom with a blending brush and Wild Dandelion ink from Gina K Designs. Then I will bring in Passionate Pink, go right over the center area. Now this is tacked down pretty good, but you still want to use a light hand just to make sure you're not pushing too hard and shifting the fine lines of the stencil. So with my blending brush, I'm going to go over a little bit into the yellow and then kind of more up towards the top. And to finish off the top portion, I'm going to be using dark lilac. So for this, I'm just going around kind of the very outer edge, blending into that pink. I don't want the purple to consume the project, but I did want to add that darker shade at the top for contrast. Now that I have all these really cool colors blended on, I can carefully peel up the stencil. It's going to seem quite sticky. It didn't rip the paper. It does leave a little bit of residue behind, which I will show you how to work with that later on. Off screen, I cleaned my stencil off, brought it back to another piece of white cardstock, and this time I'm starting at the top with Wild Dandelion. Then I'm going to bring in Sweet Mango. Now, the Passionate Pink and Yellow would make an orange, but I wanted it to be more definite. I really wanted to have a strong orange section in the middle. So that is where I brought in the Sweet Mango. And then down towards the bottom, I'm going to bring in that Passionate Pink. So I have a strong pink here at the bottom too. And I really, really love this stencil and kind of that retro look that it gives these cards. Now here's how I clean off my stencil. I place it over a towel and spritz it with rubbing alcohol, and then I'm wiping my stencil down. Now I know sometimes that the Pixie Spray can leave kind of a sticky residue behind. If you spray that with rubbing alcohol, that sticky residue comes right off. So if you're worried about that getting stuck in your protectors, try that and it'll clear it right up. I have one more background I want to create, and this one is going to kind of have more of the cool tones. So I'm starting out with Sea Glass in the center using the blending brush. I once again had sprayed the back of that stencil with the Pixie Spray. I always reapplied it because that really, really thin line there in the center can get a little tricky if it's not stuck down. So now here down towards the bottom, I have Medium Orchid. And then at the top, I'm going to bring in Wild Lilac. So I have a very strong purple, then my light blue, and then I kind of have that pinkish purple down at the bottom. So I really love this color combination. Then I can carefully peel that stencil up, and this is what I do if there's any sticky residue left behind from the stencil and that Pixie Spray, is I take an adhesive eraser and I go over those lines. I do let the card sit for about a minute to make sure my ink is dry, but then I can go over those lines and that helps smooth out that cardstock so it isn't so rough feeling. So now I have 3 backgrounds that I quickly created using that circle stencil, which I absolutely love it. These make the coolest cards. So here I kind of lined out what I wanted to do. I die cut out that word sunshine from the sea glass foil that I did on my toner card front, and I have a palm tree in there that was using the grass green. So I laid out the idea that I wanted, and then I'm bringing in a sentiment and this little flock of birds from the Tropical Sunshine stamp set. I'm going to use my Misty ruler to help push my sentiment down and make sure it is lined up straight. Then I can pick it up with the door of the Misty, kind of make sure and realign my cardstock so it's tucked down in that bottom corner, and then bring my birds back in. And this is just a flock of 3 birds. I really like that because I always do embellishments in 3, so I liked that there were kind of 3 birds in a grouping. And then I inked that up with the Gina K Designs Obsidian ink. Using my Connect glue that I have in the fine tip bottles, I added the word sunshine onto the front of my cardstock. And now the word sunshine, I did also die cut from white cardstock and layered that behind my foiled piece to help add a little bit of dimension to that. Then I placed my palm tree in here and I just have the top of it kind of sitting there as a guide, and then put that Connect glue on the back of my tree trunk and added that to the side of the card. And now for my palm tree, I trimmed down some foam squares, and I'm going to add this to a couple of the what are they, fronds? I'm not sure what the leaves are of a palm tree, but I added it to the leaves of the palm tree and then added that to the top. So really quick and simple card, amazing design. I love these type of designs. Now, if you don't want to do any foiling, you can use the stamp set to still create a really fun scene. So there is this group of palm trees. I have another sentiment and that flock of birds. And once again, I'm kind of thinking about embellishments. So I lined them up over my ink blended area, thinking about how I would with embellishments, kind of scattered in that grouping of 3 like a triangle. And then I inked that up with the Obsidian ink, and I'm going to stamp that down. Now, because there are a lot of thick areas to these stamps, especially the palm tree, I'm going to make sure that I'm tucked back down in that corner and stamp it again. And I'm going to pretty much call this card good. I do bring in some embellishments later on, but this makes a really great, clean and simple card and one layer card. I have one more card that I want to create for you, and you're going to notice that this background may look different in the colors than what I did before, and that's because I dropped an ink pad on the other background. So I had a spare, and what I wanted to show you is how to turn this into a shaker card. So I took a piece of white cardstock and I die cut a circle out of the front, kind of eyeballed about where to put that circle to create that window. And then I have acetate that I lined with some double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to place this on the back of my window panel. Now, I believe the window panel, the circle die I used came from Master Layouts 8, but you can look through your circle dies, see what's going to fit that circle with the ink blending. Then I'm placing some foam tape all around the edges of my window. You want to make sure that that foam tape is right up next to each other because you don't want your shaker mix to fall out. Then I'm going over to that ink blended panel and I'm putting in some micro disco ball sequence from Gina K Designs. I'm going to kind of flatten that out with my hand. You don't want that piled on top of each other. And then after I had removed the adhesive of the foam tape, I placed my window panel over the ink blended area with the sequence. Now, I knew it wasn't going to line up perfectly, so I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off any excess from that ink blended panel on the bottom. So now we have this really fun shaker card, and these these disco ball sequins were amazing in this type of window and this design. Now I can kind of finish putting my scene together on the front of my card. Here I have that word sunshine that I added some of the liquid glue to. This one was die cut out of that foiled card front I did using Passionate Pink. And I made sure to kind of dab my finger on the back. I don't want a lot of excess glue behind that to get all over my acetate. So I dabbed it off with my finger and then I placed something heavy over the top to let it sit for a minute. And I'm doing the same thing with my palm tree that I did in the previous card. Now, I did need to have kind of a smaller sentiment, and instead of trying to stamp or heat emboss on acetate that I'm not very good at, I decided to just do this with black cardstock. So I picked out a small sentiment, and I have some black Onyx cardstock in my Mindy that I prepped with an anti-static powder tool, and I'm inking up my sentiment with some white pigment ink, just kind of doing some light taps so I don't squish that ink. And then I can sprinkle on the white embossing powder. Then I will bring in my heat tool, and I always start from the back and then bring it to the front to melt that embossing powder. I'll let that cool down for a few seconds, and then I always go over it with a Swiffer cloth, and if that doesn't remove all of the powder, I'll come in with an eraser and just go around those edges. So then to trim this out, I'm bringing in these sentiment strips from Gina K Designs, finding the one that's going to fit, but you could always just trim this out with your paper trimmer too. Then I will add liquid glue to the back of that, kind of dab that off with my fingers so I don't have so much glue on there, and place that right above my die cut sentiment. And then I'll just place something heavy on that and let that sit for a minute or two. And now I have this really fun shaker card. So I wanted to add some of these disco ball sequins to a couple of my other cards because I thought they were really pretty with this design. So I brought in my previous card and I'm adding a few down below and above, and then I'm putting some unicorn stickles right in the center. So a lot of sparkle and shine going on in that sequins mix. So there are a few ideas for you of how you can use those toner card fronts. Like I said, you can also use your leftover foil when you had done some foiling with a design. You can use those as well. But I really like making them to create my kind of custom foiled cardstock. All of my supplies will be listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. I hope you enjoyed today's card projects. I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed today's video, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up. And you're welcome to become a subscriber to my channel and click the notify me button so you're notified when new videos are posted. Thanks again and see you soon.